to get.
Okay. Let's see. In her absence, I'll return to that after she arrives. So I'll move on to oral communications. This is where persons wishing to address the ASCC on a subject not on tonight's agenda can be. Yes, Darcy.
Hi, good evening. It's not planning related and it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to introduce myself, Darcy Smith, your new town manager. Nice to meet y'all. Nice to meet you. Nice. So I just want to come and introduce myself, and I'm available to anyone in the town, and I'd really love to hear say about planning issues. My background is planning, and yes, interim planning and how building director, but because he's an interim and a little limited on his hours, I'm happy to talk to anyone about any town matters, including at any time. And again, my background is planning, very passionate about architecture, geology, ecology, and preservation. And the fun fact about me is that when I was in college, he didn't tell me all the secrets, but he definitely, in my youth, inspired me to go into planning. And town has a lot of amazing planning history. So I just want to thank you for your service on this commission, and just let you know I'm available if you ever want to chat.
Thank you so much, Darcy.
Well, we're all excited.
Anyone else? And yes. Hi.
Okay, great.
Can you turn the microphone on?
There we go.
Thank you, Sue.
Appreciate it. Got it. I'll try to be brief. What do I have, 3 minutes? I can do it. We think we can go, or the pictures? Okay, my name is Susan Moore. Let me get my notes. I am here today to request, and I know this isn't the forum to make it formalized, that there's pillars 131, 139 Brookside Drive Gateway preserved historically, cited through the historical elements 506-25. These pillars are, and they were constructed by my grandfather in 1934, a year after he bought the property. Someone's coming in. We were shocked when we demolished them. Really, it wasn't in our week. That was part of, we knew there was construction next door and remodeling, but we didn't realize that demolishing the pillars, which we never considered in our wheelhouse, that they were gonna be demolished. So it was okay. We thought about it. We looked at, there they are. Can we flip it? There they are. Yep. Yeah, it's great. That my grandfather bought 2 parcels at Brookside, I think it was Brookside Orchard at the time. And in 1934, he built these pillars. The pillars are fascinating. They're constructed from cobblestone that he took from San Francisco, which is where their family was residing, abalone from the ocean surrounding the area, and cement was made from Corte Madera Creek, which one's kind of parallel or nearby. He out of that. The structures are interesting. You can see there's 4, and what I'm requesting is the entire set of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the wrought iron gates. The wrought iron gates are in the middle of in between the the small pillar, then there's a pillar, then the features of the pillars are really part of what I didn't know. And using really locally sourced materials to build quite lovely. Over the years, when they would come to Portola Valley to visit, the community would gather there. They would eat, they would drink, and sleep in hammocks, apparently underneath the tree orchards that used to in that area. Yeah. These families were the Ramies, men, and later on more families. And the gatherings happened every weekend. They happened they happened often, and over the years that transformed into the block party, which also there were tables laid out, people drink, and they would gather every year to meet with their neighbors. Up until they were up as a block developed, there would be up at these gatherings, and that block party continues to this day. The block party is an important part of the fabric of Brookside. It remains as such. I did get a letter. I wasn't sure if it was me being emo. I did have an artist, Pillars. Her name is Professor Ingrid Kalam. She's a renowned visual artist, an acquaintance. I had her look at the question as to, and her first response to that was why, wow, and why would they have to be saved? She wrote a long letter, not a long letter, but she did cite interesting architectural components to this, like the watchtowers and made by Simon Radia, and other artists in Joshua Tree, and an artist in France who also cultivated from local, built these types of structures. The pillars are an integral fabric to books, as is the gateway, in my opinion. I do have a petition signed by the residents of Brookside. I don't know, Emily, can I give that to you, or is that not appropriate? I don't know out of order, but there is a petition signed by the residents to preserve these pillars. It's not a legal document. It's not notarized. It's rustic, but it's all signed by local neighbors. Yeah, you just, okay, great. Great. And I want to read section 2506 if I could. If I could find it. I know I have it in there. There's four, I think 5 points of it, and I want to kind of illuminate why I believe this structure does meet the criteria for preservation. The historic resource is really a great document. That element of the general plan. The historic resource 2506 says that a man-made natural physical feature represents an architectural, cultural, archaeological, community, or aesthetic value and is subject to. More specifically, it shall possess one or more of the following attributes. One, yield or be likely to yield information that is important to prehistory. I don't know about that. Two, be associated with events that have made a significant patterns of life. I would argue, yes. The people that gathered were our first immigrants, minus the indigenous people who also knew this area was spectacular. But it was part of the early people that gathered here and lived here and worked here. Alex, that participated enjoyed this area on and around these pillars. Three, be associated with lives and culture significant with the town past. I would say yes. Number four, embody the distinctive characteristics, time period, construction, especially if it's last remaining structure. It's original. It was, represents the work of a master. My grandfather was not, nor was he an engineer. He was I don't know, he's an entrepreneur and or possess high artistic value. Yes. And number 5, possess the integrity of location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, and feeling of original nature. Emily, can we look at them one more time? That's the letter, the proposal to demolish. Yeah, that's okay. And it's okay that that's was proposed to us. It's just not, it doesn't feel like it's okay. Gonna look at those pillars again. I would say in conclusion, really, that they are no, asked why. Why would you take them? Well, that's kind of cattywampus, but there you go. You can see the cobblestone on the top, and you can see the abalone shells that are sitting also at the top. He also put abalone shells at the base of the flag pole that he also built that he would raise when they would come to town, which would tell everyone. And that would symbolize the beginning of the gathering. And he was a proud immigrant. I would argue again that they're the fabric of Brooklyn. And a little piece of the tapestry of this town.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Susan.
you.
So from a procedural standpoint, Susan,
Sure.
Since this isn't on tonight's agenda, we can't take action on it. But if there are others that'd like to speak to this item, during public comment, you're welcome to.
Any other comments?
Sue Chapu. I remember Gloria telling me she took the bus to Sequoia High School, right? And it was a dusty road all the way home. Imagine coming home to those pillars. It'd be beautiful. I was just at dog play tonight and I was telling about this, and 2 people said simultaneously, gates on Brookside. I think that says it all.
Anyone else? Introduce, introduce you, introduce yourself, please.
Olsen.
Mm.
I am two doors down, and I've been there for 25 years or more. Gloria is a sweet neighbor, not only neighbor, she's more than that for me. And these landmarks, I mean, this is how I call them. These are landmarks. I have seen a lot of those pillars down, not later than this one. There were like 3 sets, my route around and around. And I'm thinking, why those would have to go? They're even more unique because of those abalone. And they look good. Basically, that's it.
Thank you.
So why take them out? I think it reinforces the spirit of Portola. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone online?
Currently, no hands are raised online.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just share that I live on the Herbert Law Estate, which is, goes between the stone house at the end of Willowbrook, all the way around to the other side. So I live next to the stone pillars on Alpine. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
We skipped over roll call earlier.
Yes.
Gina Dixon is not online. Best if we could for
Okay.
folks. Starting off, Carter Ward,
Here.
Commissioner Dana Breen.
Here.
Commissioner Lance Vaughn,
Here.
3 commissioners here, 1 absent.
I'll move on to, I'll move through our agenda since there aren't any items, on our calendar, to item 4, commission staff and committee reports and recommendations. The first item under 4A is the commission recommendation to direct staff to implement, the ASCC pre-application. Brandon, you want to talk about that? Should we do that on our own?
Yeah, I believe, I can briefly discuss it. I believe, Commissioner Dixon did bring this, before the commission for kind of, addressing it. And so, staff has reviewed the document that was prepared by Commissioner Dixon. We've made just minor edits just to clean up language. And so this meeting is for your review of that document. If you are comfortable with it and feel that we should move forward, staff will begin offering these pre-application meetings with the ASCC. As part of your action, we do ask that you identify your first commissioners that will be helping kind of start the process and who will take turns hosting these meetings.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Dana,
How do you feel?
I feel pretty good about it.
Good, I do too.
I think that, the reduced scope of, documents and the ability, to meet with the ASCC, members of the ASCC before, moving on with the credible investment, in civil engineering and design, I think is going to be a huge benefit, to the applicants, use the impact of, the projects, and improve their, ability, their design sensibility.
It mentions floor plans though. Isn't that a little soon, early in the game? I think more about siting, appropriate siting of a house. That's just-
I don't disagree. As you're placing a building, it's actually one of the first things, to come out in sketch form, or
Floor plans.
floor plans that, start to assemble, how the mass.
Okay.
Is it a massing, does the program exceed, the footprint that you're trying to develop? And so does that, send things into the second floor, or does it send things into the basement?
Okay.
Or both? I think this, this process, if we make it, easy, we make it fun, we make it friendly, I think it, it has the opportunity to, move projects, forward better. I think in concert with, what we're going to be, confronted with, I think it has the, the ability, to mitigate some of the impact or missteps, that applicants could find themselves, falling into, without better direction, and a better understanding of. So, I like the way that this is gestated, through, our agendas. I'd like to move it forward, so that staff can encourage, their compadres and their applicants seek us out.
I'd like to move it forward too, and I will volunteer to be one of the first people to review.
I will too.
Excellent.
So, I'd like a motion, to move this forward, from the ASCC.
Yes, if we could have an alternative commission, just in case there is a conflict of interest.
I think, I think between the four of us, I think we should all be available.
Okay, so the other two
I
would be the alternates in this.
I mean,
Perfect.
I think the ability, to essentially let all four of us know, that, something's coming up, and, have us be able to raise our hand, to volunteer for that, because depending on schedule and see, we'll all have different available, and there will be, will likely be some, that we'll have to mitigate.
Sounds good.
Actually, before we do that, I'd like to open, to public comment. Anyone here?
We have one hand raised.
Okay.
Kirsty C., you're allowed to speak.
I just want to clarify on what you're voting on right now. Are you going in order or not order?
Yes, we're going in order, Chris. So this is the early ASCC review opt-in process. That would be a volunteer, essentially the ASCC members would provide, a volunteer opportunity for applicants, to visit with, ASCC members on site, in a informal setting, to review what they're planning and what they're thinking about, for their projects as far as, building position, driveway position. It's intended to provide an early opportunity for applicants to, and, what's different about Portola Valley, and how we're thinking about, site planning and grading.
Okay, so my question would be, can the public attend as well? And will you put the date out to the public? I do live on Alpine Road and I'm interested if, any neighbors are going to do things. So,
That is not the intention.
so we would,
This is intended to be a informal meeting that does not count towards the meeting limits, set forth by the state. This is a voluntary opportunity for applicants. It really is intended to, help applicants understand, what the ASCC is looking for and what they're concerned about. It is not intended to be a public meeting.
so not even 300 feet away wouldn't be notified. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And just to also clarify, this does not negate process. This is in addition to. So if the applicant still triggers a normal ASCC review, that will come through and the normal 300-foot notice will be at that. This is a very early on, very preliminary.
Well, could we, I guess I'm going to comment that I think the people 300 feet should be invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
So on that note, I would make a motion that we should move this forward.
Thank you.
We do have one other person
Oh,
online.
I'm sorry.
Danielle Cardinal, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, yeah, first of all, I've said this before, but I think it's a great idea. I think it's much needed and would have saved us a lot of time already over the last couple of years. And second, I completely agree with your implementation. It should be informal and private between the applicant team and ASCC members and anybody else they think they need to help them. The whole point is to do it that way. If it starts to be public, it counts as one of the 5 meetings, ... I mean, it ruins the whole thing, I think. So I think it's great and I like the way you're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Are we done with comments? So motion on the floor.
Repeat it, please.
Huh?
Repeat it, please. I'll second the motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? None. Passes three,
Okay.
passes 3-0. So the next item is 4B, a staff recommendation to do a whole bunch of work to develop objective design standards for essentially everything that comes before the town, so the ASCC doesn't have to look at anything.
Well, that's one way to put it.
Well, it's kind of paraphrasing what it,
Just to summarize. Thank you, sorry. Just to kind of summarize, the state law has been changing quite quickly, and does require that we apply only objective design standard to a lot of housing projects. And that is, again, a lot of what the ASCC does review, and that's why we want to ask the ASCC to help develop these. You guys are experts, you've been reviewing, you understand kind of what Portola Valley's goals are in those designs. So we want to work with you guys to create these objective design standards. These will apply for many, including ADU and SB9. And recently SB9 has been modified that we can only apply objective design standards that apply to the underlying zoning district. Currently, we do not have objective design standards for our family. We have our design guidelines, and there are objective standards for but the wording it uses is should instead of shall and things like that. And a lot of the other standards are subject, should enhance neighborhood appearance.
sure. And in that vein, there are a couple existing thresholds, that I'd like, us to discuss, potentially implementing them, as kind of the catch-alls, to help us, deal with, actually the protection of what makes Portola Valley different, which is design, review. The first catch-all right now is that, in Portola Valley requires design review. Okay, except for ADU.
Right.
And that's probably challengeable. But the 1,200 square foot, limit for design review is probably not challenging. Since, it's, at a limit, higher than, at or higher than, the ADU limit, for, because 2-bedroom ADU, are allowed, up to 1,200 square feet, in the current state law. So in a 1,200 square foot, building, in my, my judgment, if it complies with all of the other, current design standards, for setbacks, and height, is likely to be, pretty easy for us, to make, to be palatable, without, creating a whole nother set, of design standards. So, I'm wondering, I'm not laying that out as the answer right now, but I wanted to discuss, if we potentially could make it as simple as that, and that everything else beyond, any project beyond 1,200, would require the regular design review, which then is subjective. So,
I think that works.
well, I think we want to, I think, yeah, as we define a subcommittee, I think that's one of the things, as a way to kind of capture those things that, that we would allow essentially by right, through, and comply with, 9, I think it's SB 35, and there was a whole bunch of stuff, in the staff report, I think was good information, that, Brandon brought forth about which laws, we'd be tripping over, because, some, other than that, it would actually give us the opportunity capture more projects, for design review, than less.
One thing I've wanted to and share what we think is very important to us in terms of what we emphasize, lighting, all the things that, so that you guys know what we've been doing for 20 years, and the things that we emphasize over and over that do keep the value of the town. And you know how with Tom Vlasic, we used
Yeah.
all the time. I think we need to have a working session with planning staff for you guys to get where we go.
I don't disagree, Dana. I think that, that, I mean, as the subcommittee looks at, and the design standards, I was on the, on the authorship, committee, for the design standards. And I had an opportunity today to reread it.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually pretty in its intent. I do think there are things that we, with the ordinance that, could define, where the limits are, for, when design review is not required. And then, provide a threshold that is, is low enough, that we feel comfortable, but high enough, that it wouldn't be challengeable, under these laws. So that's where I think, we could, as a subcommittee, cut pretty close, cut the process pretty closely without having to create, something akin to, what we're seeing in the, and, I can't remember the other one. The MF.
Yep,
zoning district.
MF and MU.
But, for the residential zoning districts, SB 9 lot splits, I'm less concerned, when the size of the project and the grading for the, are limited, to kind of our current threshold. Our current threshold is 100 cubic yards, for ASCC review. And I mean, if you can build a 1,200 square foot something, with less than 100 cubic yards of grading, that's a pretty simple project. It's likely to not have very much impact. So, I'm going to put that out, before we, create the
Meeting.
subcommittee. And,
It was beautiful reading the document.
yeah, it was,
I mean, they are gorgeous.
as much as I didn't like the 100 and some staff report, it was cathartic to actually go through it.
It also, the town of Portola Valley is different from other towns.
Yeah.
And it's because of what we've done. And I really want to hang, and I think we can nuance that.
Well, and because most of these laws are about affordable housing anyway, and so by keeping the size relatively small, we'll be attending, to the affordable nature and what the laws were intended, about. It wasn't about giving by right the ability to build a 8,300 square foot house.
It's like my shack.
Well, your shack is too big
Well, the simplicity is,
and it leaks too much.
the simplicity is nice, but can we keep doing that without becoming too prescriptive in documents?
I think it's definitely going to be a balancing act. So, with SB 9, there was that size limitation. That's gone now. SB 9, technically a new, whatever we would allow by technically under the zoning code. So if technically by right, somebody could propose that and they submit under SB 9, it would not come before the ASCC because state law changed it and said you can only apply objective standards that apply to the underlying zoning district size limitation.
Well, that's why we could identify in the underlying zoning, the threshold.
But you're gonna, and I'm particularly focused on SB 9 case.
Mhm.
SB 9 says you can only consider it ministerially. That would be no subjection, no ASCC. And what I've seen other jurisdictions, here's the regulations. Here are the standards, being a little more prescriptive. If you do want something outside of that, we can consider that, but you're going to. And I think that's definitely probably the slightly better approach, adding these, like, oh, if you go over 1,000 square feet, it's going to go to ASCQ. I think that will possibly run affront to the state law. And but definitely, as part of the subcommittee, maybe we bring in the town attorney to have that conversation. Will that, right, will that go against state? And kind of try to finesse it into that middle ground that you guys.
Okay. So I'll volunteer, Well, I wish Gina was here, because why she's gonna volunteer, without the ability to vote against it.
Silence can be agreement, so. All right, you're looking at me.
I think she's anticipating.
I think she probably is the best.
Maybe that's why she didn't want to join. She didn't want to be
Perhaps.
voluntold.
Perhaps.
Joking,
But if
joking.
not, do my best. If she says no.
Okay. So it would be, Carter and Gina, Lance is, alternate.
Sounds great.
I don't think we need a motion, to,
I don't believe so, no. A public comment. Mhm.
well, now the public knows what we're intending to do. Is there any public comment on this? Susan, do you have any? Gloria, I want to hear your. Mhm. Okay. Come on up.
Here, you can even take a seat at the table if you would like to sit, if you want.
This town has been my life. I mean, I came here when I was a kid before we ever had a house here. And, to have people that save what it is. And that's why I'm so attached to Brookside, because it is one of the few places in the town that's still the original. There are a lot of little original places that were when I, so, I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, a hard task to do.
Thanks. Okay. Rebecca?
So I think it's great that you're forming a subcommittee to start to think about objective requirements and to make sure that the design guidelines are preserved in a way that also kind of provides some objective requirements for them, so that even projects that don't end up coming to the ASCC, because they'll be there. We've exchanged a couple emails about this idea, and coming down the pike, we've hired urban planning partners, work on updating our zoning codes and our housing element in Ford Park, and to substitute the other properties that we're looking at, where the property owners have expressed interest in developing them into these multifamily projects. And so in light of that, Urban Planning Partners has been hired to create some effective design. This new zone that would probably be needed, which would be mixed use. So we currently have a mixed use 4 to 6, I believe, and have a multifamily. So, and we have some objective standards that we want to try. My concern is that, once again, we hired another consultant that's going to out somehow the involvement of the ASCC. So it concerns me greatly that you're not part of that process yet. So I really hope that perhaps part of the permit of this new subcommittee could also kind of look at those objective standards. Department, to make sure that our design guidelines are incorporated objective guidelines. But in addition, as we worked on in the kind of last minute effort to fix the original new zoning objective requirements, they were left with a significant amount that's still fixing.
Yes.
Kind of, we did the bare minimum to kind of safeguard it, but some of the objective requirements are really kind of designed for Menlo Park or Palo Alto, not.
Right.
So to me, it seems like it would be far more efficient to have all of these normalized, if you will, across all the different zones that we're doing, so that they match our design guide. To me, it would be really helpful if this subcommittee and eventually the whole ASCC could also weigh in to make sure that happens.
I also want to make sure that we work as a team, you know, with the planning department, with the planning consultants, that they work with ASCC.
Yeah, my biggest fear is that the new the mixed use subjective requirements, the multifamily objective requirements, merge them, create the mixed three,
Well,
which would be problematic.
that wouldn't work for me.
So,
Since all of us, the consultants, the planning commission, the ASCC, and all of the committees, work, at the behest of the town council, I believe, town council could, direct the ASCC, to do that. My sense, amongst my, commission members, is that we would, be happy, to do that. What we don't want to do, is have, your consultants doing a bunch of work in advance, and then coming back to. I think that if you could direct, your consultants to come to us, to understand what our concerns, are and were, with the redeployment, in advance of going back to HCD, because those efforts happen very quickly, with a subcommittee of the ASCC, and the planning commission, to essentially rewrite those, to one, simplify them, two is to make them more effective, in what they were going to do, protect the town. I would encourage the council to do that. And I think we as ASCC members can communicate that to the other council members or back for, because I do think that whatever we say here, tonight, around that, it is going to go on deaf ears, without, being directed, either by the town manager or.
so, well, I can certainly communicate that to our director of planning as well as our town managers here. My concern is a timing one. So urban planning partners have a schedule to draft the housing and land use elements and zoning amendment, I believe by Tuesday, September. Have in here. The urgency is being driven by the need to transmit the final version HCD by the end of the year. And because there is eventually a comment period, a community meeting, a planning commission meeting, and then a town council meeting that all has to occur, between now and then, from the time, those things, that just makes the timing very, I mean, we do have a 1 month, there's definitely a 1 month breather period. We've committed in the housing element to go out for an RFP for Ford Park in January. So obviously you can go out January 1st. So we, there's definitely a 1 month, fudge period, if you will, in this schedule that they've got here, but that still makes it very sense. I would say within the next month, August, you will need to have given feedback to
Well,
urban planning partners.
If
So
if the council, town manager, urban planning partners to send their drafts, to us, I think we would readily respond, in our regular 2 or 3 day period.
my concern is that I would rather that they not have a draft yet, and it goes the other, you put up in bullet points or.
I don't disagree, but, I guess we can try.
That's all we can ask.
I think without the council directing, they will do what they do because that is their habit. And I'm not saying that's the planning, that's just people. They'll do what they know how to do because that's, so if you want that process to change, if we want that process to change, we have to direct that, I believe.
I don't disagree at all, Lance. I think that, that if you want the process calendar to change partners, you need to say, we want this intersection, before you finish your draft for September 23rd.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you want to know how people behave, find out how they're paid. So tie it together.
I also feel very sensitive about any changes to the general, without the people being involved. So I know that's been happening with but anything additional, I want to hear about it. Any changes to the general plan?
And as I'd mentioned before, when we were rewriting some things, I was disturbed by the specificity, of specific properties, showing up, in the housing element, and in the zoning ordinance in ways that, really acts like spot zoning, because there were specific properties that had specific requirements that are different from every. And I don't think it's fair. I think that, if it's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander, and, anyway, there were specific things that just were, and I know as a subcommittee member, I'll be, trying to smooth out those bumps.
Mhm. Okay.
I mean, yeah, but I think to be most efficient, to utilize our money most efficiently, early alignment is really important. Because then they don't have to go back and rework.
Of course.
And that's where we will encounter the reluctance.
Well, I'll certainly communicate that to Terrence and see about getting ASCC line item
Yes.
anyway. And then if you could, start thinking about MF 23 or MU 23 and how we, what makes sense in terms of the objective requirements, that would be great.
Well, I mean, the other way to help, align that, is if one or the other of the properties have, so that we can, make the design workable inside the future ordinance, but also, give us the opportunity to provide a test bed, for, what the.
I've
what-
actually
what-
made that
what-
recommend.
What the economics, well, because the economics around, what's coming, for affordable housing, has to be a part of that, because otherwise affordable housing can't be built.
Right. I've actually made that recommendation. Parents planning, about trying to get ASCC involved with the projects because they both have feasibility, designs. They're already talking to the town. The town has seen their designs, but they're obviously very private. It's
Well,
private right now.
Well, we've got a preliminary process that,
That you just
that
approved.
they can
yeah.
apply for.
Yeah. I know.
And it comes free.
All right.
It's the only thing in town that comes
Yeah.
besides air.
And so the other thing I wanted to of the subcommittee that you've committed to right here, and our current 80 ordinance is out of date. I think it was out of date by within a week of passing it with the new laws. So I've taken a look at that and I've through best I can to understand where the problems are and what HCD was having fault with and found fault with not meeting state code. And I've made sort of draft recommendations for how to fix that for most of them. But the other thing that comes up is just on that Mayor and I are part of a sub to encourage ADUs built. And we've gone through what is it called? The council memo process. We're planning to come back in the August, September timeframe to discuss ideas as well as put together probably a larger committee. People from the ASCC and people from the community that are exploring how we can encourage ADUs, whether it's like Atherton does that gives more free floor area, whether it's like, I forget, Monte Sereno, I believe, that gives rebates on their permits for ADU, particularly if they're planning to rent them out. There's all sorts of different ideas too. That I think should be part of that update for the line with state law, but also that are adding incentives for the time for that, because I know that HCD starting to crack down on municipalities that don't updated. So we're kind of a little bit under the gun. I'd hate to have just got it, but that's something to think about. So hopefully they will be a little lenient with us, given the fact that we are working on.
Yeah, and so just some background kind of staff's thinking and kind of approach on this. So from our stuff is looking at getting the objective design, but those would be brought together with the zoning code up or the ADU or. The state recently, sent Emily, the letter again, just reminding us that we have it. And so that's actually kind of what kicked off this process. Hey, we have to fix this, but also we need to address all this other stuff. And we felt like definitely the design standard. And then we would bring a complete package with, hey, this is the state law language. They've been very strict on their language. It's basically under 800 square feet, 4-foot side and rear setbacks, and the height, that's it. That's all we can specify. Anything above 800, we can apply all our normal, but they have to be. So we're kind of planning on dovetailing this together to help address that. And our SB 9 ordinance is slightly out of date as well. So it's a kind of looking at all our single family processes and requirements from the state, kind of really get that moving.
So I think we've accomplished, what our intended goal. Establish the, subcommittee. I think we've been fortunate, to have some time, to think about, kind of the complexities and the other, issues around. So, I'm satisfied with our progress, for tonight's meeting. Next item was minutes.
I'm sorry, we do have a very late raised. We have a late hand that was raised.
Okay,
Kirsty C., you're allowed to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to encourage the subcommittee to pull other town and cities multi-MU objective standards and have at least 5 in front of you as we make our standards, and possibly towns that have similar attributes, size, and so on. I think that would really help us in understanding what other cities are doing. And that would be my one request. And for MU 23, there's larger parking lots, and I'm pro green islands and shade, if at all possible. If you could build that in, I'm just going to request that. We're used to seeing that rather than solid cement. Thank you.
I've been challenging the town of Ross because that's where the governor lives. So that he can start to hear the questions that are coming to us. Small town, just like us.
okay. Next item is minutes of April 14th.
I read them. The only thing is spelled incorrectly the entire way through. Whatever.
Are you sensitive about that?
No,
Mine's always misspelled, so.
Dana, Donna, Deanna, Donna.
Ralph?
That's just a lotto ticket. I don't care.
I read both sets. Move to approve.
Okay, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None.
Wow. I thought we were going to be here for like 3 hours tonight. Praise the Lord.
Meeting's adjourned.